FC.
E5 ICX and 5BB.
Go ahead, Bill. KE5I6.
You said you sent out the script, but I'm not sure which one. I'm lost here. Can you resend it to me, the latest one you have?
I just hit the hot link. I didn't send the script separately. It was hot link. So
We got link now.
your part for what you want to present, that's up to you. I have your part here that you sent me. I6.
I'm looking for the hot link right now. That's what I can't find.
I'll resend it.
Is the thing that says Skynet Notes 9719? Is that the one?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I got it open. I will be back in 1 minute inside BB. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we start Skynet? This is in 5BB. This is in 5BB. My name is Bill. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weeknet called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. It's open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? the directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from your net control in 5dB. Stations are reminded to identify at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 in Dallas. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. And I am looking at Echolink. So, I'm already getting comments from Chaz, which I'll ignore for now. Let's see, what else? Tonight's topics: astronomy, charts, pictures, and live audio and visual links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for a complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long, structured into several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, when and where you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, selected by the net control, space exploration and space history. What's up? Ms. Carolyn's constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visual satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical questions and answered if we have time, and the 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency band are invited to check in. So let's start with, do we have any short-time check-ins? Any short-time check-ins, please come now. This is Skynet in 5dB net control.
Foxtrot 5, Hotel Golf, Airport Bob Mesquite. Short time. Five, Whiskey Oscar India, William Allen, short time.
Good. I have KF5HGU and 5WOI. Do either of you have anything you need to present to the net before you leave? If so, please come now.
WI. No, just want to check in with y'all, and I kind of listen in the background while I'm doing other tasks. But just want to check in 5WI.
And Bob, I have you both. I just want to give you the chance to make any comments if you had news for us. Okay, next we're going to do general check-ins. So if you would, please say your name, your call sign, and your location. General RF check-ins only. Please come now for Skynet.
Whiskey, Tango, Niner, Victor, Michael, and Plano.
KIL in North Dallas. Please hold. That last station, KI5, I didn't get you. You're in North Dallas. Please key in your call sign and your name. I think you misunderstood. This is KI6LZQ, and I normally check in via Echolink. KI6LZQ, we have you. Okay, WT9V, we have you also, Michael. Any other RF check-ins to Skynet? Please come now.
This is
November 5, Alpha, Bravo Alpha, Andre, and Wiley.
Kilo Golf 5, Oscar Charlie, Bravo David, Arlington.
This is Kilo India 5, Foxtrot Echo Tango, Estefania, and Wiley.
This is Bravo 5, Uniform November Zulu, Max, in Fort Worth.
Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony and Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa, Mike, and Richardson.
Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly in Quinlan.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Jazz, Mesquite.
Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Tom, Louisville.
Pause there. In addition to WT9V, KS6LZQ, and 5WOI, and KF5HGU, I also have N5ABA, Andre. David, is your call KG5OCB, Kilo Golf 5, Oscar Charlie Bravo? Please confirm, David.
Roger, that's correct.
We got you, David, in Arlington. Stephania, is it KI5 Foxtrot India Tango, is that correct?
This is KI5 SET Foxtrot Echo Tango.
I'm sure it's Stephanie. I got you. Field Effect Transistor, we have you. KB5NUZ, Max in Fort Worth. Did I get that right?
It's Kilo Bravo 5, Uniform November Zulu, Max, in Fort Worth.
I'm sorry, Max. I copied them down backwards. KB5UNZ in Fort Worth. NT5TM, Tony. KG5P, Mike. K5ZBL, Bill. KG5WVL, James. K5KTX, Kelly. KF5JHA, Chaz. And KE5ICX, Tom. Did I miss anybody, or do we have any additional RF check-ins to Skynet? Please come now. This is N5BB, Net Control. I think that was Roland, but something's wrong with your radio or microphone. Try again. Got nothing but a little bit of hum. Please try turning your radio off, turning it back on, and unplugging and plugging back in the microphone, if you don't mind. Nothing heard. WA5RFG, Ron, if that's you, give 2 quick transmissions, 2 quick key downs. Okay, W5RFG, Roland. Roland, something happened. It started to work, and then your audio cut off nearly immediately before you even got a word out. So something is very wrong there. We hear some AC hum, like harmonics of 60 hertz, but that was all. Okay, now let's try Echolink. I can see that Kelly is in limbo, but we already got her checked in. And that's too bad, Kelly. What else do we have? Does anybody that's on Echolink want to check in on voice? If so, please come now. We'll wait for you.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Weatherford.
Kilo Foxtrot 5 Papa Delta Sierra Billy in Sherman.
Kilo Golf 5 Zulu Mike Golf Joe in Arlington.
November 5, Yankee, Echo, Oscar, Stephen, San Antonio.
Good. The new stations I got were KG5BZW, hello Jay, KG5ZMG, hello Joe. We have KF5PDS, hello Billy. We have N5YEO in San Antonio, hello Stephen. And then on text only, I see KK6ZUB, Elaine, and N5IMSJJ. Did I miss anybody on RF or Echolink? This is N5BB and Skynet. Please come now. We will look for additional check-ins later, but that's a pretty good crew to start off with. Now, let's get started. General announcements. Do we have any general announcements for the net? This could be amateur radio related, astronomical, space, or anything of general interest to licensed hams. If so, please give me your call sign now. I'm used to having some things. Tony, do you have any general announcements? Be away from the radio. I'll say a couple of general things. So first, let's talk about ARRL news. The problem we've had involving the French with wanting to use part of the 2-meter band, 144 to 146 megahertz, that problem has now gone away. The latest news from ARRL is that the French have withdrawn that request, which is good for us. Hurricane storm watch is continuing along the east coast of the U.S., and so the nets are still up. Hurricane watch net, I believe, is still up. It was still up the last couple of days. I haven't checked today. So be careful if you get anywhere near 14.325 megahertz or 7268 kilohertz. ARES members are helping with emergency activities along the whole eastern coast of North America. The FCC granted temporary waiver for use of PACTOR 4 for hurricane response and relief. PACTOR 4 is higher bandwidth than normally what's allowed. Let's see, what else do I have? The Cycle 24 sunspots return. There's only a sunspot number of 12, which is very low. There was radiation from a coronal hole that increased the planetary A index up to 19.9. Predicted solar flux the next few days is 69. And sunspot numbers recently have been very low. 0, 0, 0, 12, 12, 0, 0. So as we all realize, we're in the bad area for sunspot activity. This is N5BB in Skynet. Flex Radio, which is the amateur radio company in Austin. Flex Radio Systems is teaming with Raytheon to develop airborne high-frequency radios. This is going to be good for the amateur radio community because it's going to give Flex Radio a lot of money and ability to expand their company, which will make another even stronger company building amateur radio equipment right here in Texas. Flex Radio is in Austin. Other things, September is National Preparedness Month. FEMA would like to hear about any emergency preparedness activities. You can find more on the ARRL letter email. Do we have any other amateur radio related news? Please come now. This is Skynet N5BB. I have one general piece of information, which I don't know if we'll get to later, so I'll go on and mention it now. The Indian Vikram lander, which is part of the Chandrayaan-2 program, apparently crash-landed on the moon within the last 48 hours. The orbiter is working just fine, circling the moon. The lander came down to within a couple of kilometers of the moon, and the signal just disappeared. So it's assumed that they lost control and it crashed, which is very unfortunate. This lander was going to land much further south on the moon than any other lander so far, and we were going to get some more information about the moon in that area, but it crashed, so we don't have it. As you may realize, a few months ago, an Israeli spacecraft that was supposed to land also crashed. So bad luck recently on moon landers. Do we have any other news from science or space, just general information for the net? Please come down.
This is KG5P.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, well, this isn't about space, but this is about amateur-related stuff. I had to look it up when you were asking for it. On the 20 day of this year, there is going to be a exercise for response and recovery at Dallas Love Field. And basically, they're looking for people, and you don't have to be hams, but they put this out to the ham community, especially those in races, and they're looking for volunteers to basically be bodies. They're going to try to simulate some kind of aircraft accident and that'd be the only involvement that the volunteers would have. Everybody else would be run by their staff for training, and they've even asked permission, I guess, for some people to be transported to the hospitals, and then they would take you back to left field. But if you're interested in that, just email me at kg5p.arrl.net, and I'll pass on the details. But basically, they're just looking for bodies, and they're going to paint you up and do I think they do this once a year. So back to net KG5P.
Very good, Mike. Do we have any comments or questions about any of the things we've mentioned so far? This is N5BB and Skynet. Let's move right ahead then. I don't see any other comments on Echolink I need to talk about. The AMSAT, Radio Amateur Satellite Group, has 2 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you'll need Echolink installed, and you need to be registered. You'll find it under Groups in AMSAT on Echolink. There's also a live audio link on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This originates in Houston. The Dallas area AMSAT net, the DFW area, is every Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, with a PL of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, has nets all over the place. On Mondays, we have Ham Fixings Net the first week of the month, the Emergency Communication 101 the second week, Ham Fixing Nets the third week, and the Geek Net the fourth week. And if there's a fifth night, it's a surprise net. On Saturday nights, we have TechNet at 7 to 8 p.m., and of course Skynet from 9 p.m. to 10:30, and then we have Afterglow Net starting at 10:30 on Saturday nights. The American Radio Relay National Traffic System Training Net is every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time on this repeater, and at 10:30 every evening on the 146.72 megahertz Irving repeater. All people are welcome to check into these nets. On the National Traffic Net, please listen before checking in to make sure you are following protocol. We have Afterglow Net this evening, and we have information. Tom, should I read it, or would you like to read it? This is N5BB with Skynet.
I'll read it, Bill. It's my big thing. KE5ICX.
The net is yours.
All right, thank you, Bill. Tonight's Afterglow movie info is as follows. Montgomery parked the boat. I can't even do it right. Montgomery parked the boat. The 300 Amazon Prime boxes were all on deck, safely secured. All of them were addressed exactly the same. Dr. Moreau, address, the island of Dr. Moreau. Another successful delivery. Everyone was impressed with Moreau's forethought to pay the $99 a year to get free shipping. Most of the items were from Petco, Granger's, or Bed Bath & Beyond. Join us for the next Afterglow movie, The Island of Dr. Moreau, the 1996 version, not the 1975. You'll be taken in the wrong area. The 1996 version we'll be discussing at 10:30 p.m. This is KE5ICX. Back to net control.
Very good, Tom. No questions are allowed at this time. You will have to ask your questions after 10:30 when we get to the movie. Now it's time for, you can also keep up with all Dallas Amateur Radio Club events, nets, and activities. Yes, there are activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. That's whiskey5friedchicken.org. It's got lots of cool information there. Now it's time for additional check-ins. Do we have anybody else that would like to check into Skynet? This is N5BB. Go ahead. I think I scared everybody else away. And I see nothing over here on Echolink except my jokes about from Chaz about keeping those doggies rolling. Rawhide. Now, it's time for Texas Astronautical Society of Dallas events. Chaz, do you want to talk about that? Or is there somebody else that's going to talk about it? This is N5BB.
Sure, Bill, I can do that.
Go right ahead.
So much, Bill. This is KF5JHA Chaz. The Texas Astronautical Society of Dallas has a website, texasastro.org, and listing on there, they have all sorts of information. There's even an award-winning newsletter you can take a look at and read. But on the fourth Friday of each month, well, at least for 10 months out of the year anyway, there's the meeting for the Texas Astronomical Society that's held in the Science Learning Center on the UTD campus. It's on Campbell Road. Starts at 7:30. Usually there's some sort of thing that happens at 7 o'clock, either a new members summary or something. So come at 7 instead of 7:30, and we have a featured speaker and a small business meeting. There's the Constellation of the Month that myself and Dennis Harwell does. But also on the Saturday nights, the Texas Astronomical Society has observing stations somewhere in the Metroplex. On the first Friday of each month, that would be this evening, Stargazer Star Party at Spring Park in Garland. Is there anyone at that Star Party that would like to check in and let us know what is going on there tonight? Okay, I was waiting for Echo Link response, but I guess I didn't get it. On the second Saturday of each month, the Frisco Starfest is held at Frisco Commons Park in Frisco. And on the third Saturday is Cedar Hill Starbolt at J.W. Williams Park in Cedar Hill. And Stars on a Rock at the Shores Park in Rockwall happens on the fourth Saturday of each month. On the fifth Saturday, we just had one a week ago. That's when we have an observing session at our dark site in Atoka, Oklahoma. Isn't that funny? With the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas and our dark site is in Oklahoma. I think that's funny. If you want more details, again, go to texasastro.org and find out. So go to the texasastro.org website to get more details. Thank you, Bill. Back to you. KF5JHA.
Chaz, you realize the reason you have to go to Oklahoma to get into the dark? We're too bright down here in North Texas. Well, now, let's move ahead. National Space Society events. Before we do that, anybody here that's at a star party or anybody else that has any other comments about star parties, please come now.
F5JHA.
Yes, sir, Chaz.
I have to say that we have star parties in other parts of the world other than just the Dallas area. The Palo Pinto Mountain State Park Star Party happens twice a year, and this fall it is on September the 28th, just in a couple of weeks. I will not be here that evening because I will be there instead. I don't know if I can get an Echo Link signal out, but I'll try. But I can't promise that I'll be there. But it starts around dark. Sometimes they have food in advance, but if not, you can always go to Mary's Cafe ahead of time. That's the place of the best chicken fried steak in the state, if you didn't know that, in Strawn, Texas. So the Palo Pinto Mountain State Park is right beside Strawn. If you have any questions, come now with your questions about that. I'll let you have it back, Bill. Thank you so much. KF5JHA.
Very good there, Chaz. This is N5BB and Skynet. National Space Society events and activities. The National Space Society of North Texas meets on the second Sunday afternoon of every month, except for December. We have a party. The September meeting will be tomorrow, September the 8th, starting at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue. This is on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline in Irving, right across the highway from Irving Mall. Again, the meeting starts about 3:30, usually ends about 6. We usually have a speaker from 4 to 5 p.m. Tomorrow, Ken Ruffin, who is the Vice President and a National Space of the North Texas Group, and a National Space Society advisor, he's going to present the Moon Asteroids in Mars, the future of spaceflight. So this will be about a 1-hour presentation with the latest updates on NASA missions and commercial spaceflight companies' plans regarding destinations for space development and settlement on the Moon, near-Earth asteroids, and Mars. In addition, the National Space Society of North Texas is hosting the 39th Annual International Space Development Conference, ISDC, from May 27th to 31st, 2020. This is next year in May in the DFW area at a hotel. The details have not quite been published. There'll be astronauts, other space VIPs, and over 1,000 space peeps from across the U.S. and the world anticipated to attend. Okay. If anybody has any interest in that, they can go to isdc2020.nss.org. North Texas chapter of the National Space Society has earned the Chapter of the Year award in 2014, 2016, and this year in 2019 for excelling in informing and inspiring the public about space travel and space development. Any questions about National Space Society, please come now. This is N5BB in Skynet.
KI6LZQ with the odd question.
Go ahead.
I was recently reading where they're talking about potentially doing some settlements clear out to Mars. and it suggested it's approximately a 3-round trip. But one of the concerns I would have is on such a round trip, what plans do they have on dealing with the inevitable of someone passing away? Because there's not really room for a morgue on such a vehicle.
Question? I actually have not heard that particular thing brought up, but I am absolutely positive somebody's thinking about it. I can imagine what they might do, but I'm not going to say it over the air. So, does anybody else have knowledge of that? Please come down. I guess not. Okay, I'm going to continue now. This is N5BB and Skynet. I believe this is where we have discussion topic of the evening. I can put my topic in, and then Tom, you have the article from Steph Shostak about the SETI project, the fast radio burst. Is that correct, Tom? I can put my item in, and then, Tom, do you want to read the SETI thing also?
Go ahead, Bill. Start with yours, and I'll give a quick summary on mine. Go ahead. KE5I6.
Very good. We are doing this in real time, figuring it out as we go along. So, I wanted to comment about a couple of items. And hold on, let me bring up my notes here. Of course, I've temporarily misplaced them, so hang on just a moment as I find the link that I sent Tom. That embarrassing, Tom. I had it up here a moment ago, and here it is right here. Okay, so this is about galactic archaeology. Isn't that an interesting name for a topic? The Gaia, G-A-I-A spacecraft from the European Space Agency made studies of a lot of stars in the Milky Way galaxy, along with their velocities and their compositions. And so you have a huge amount of information about the content of our Milky Way galaxy, the one that we're in. And so I'm just going to read this. Satellite data reveal the Milky Way's turbulent past. This is from Science magazine, the current issue that just came out, and the author is Rosemary Weiss. She is a researcher. There's a number of papers that she's done. The past and present merger activity of the Milky Way galaxy has recently been put into sharp focus through the analysis of data from the Gaia astronomical satellite. These data were released by the European Space Agency in two data sets, DR1 and DR2. The emerging picture created is one of persistent disequilibrium with high merger activity some 10 billion years ago that plausibly created the stellar halo and the thick disk. I'm not looking at Tom's video, but Tom, are you able to show the image that I sent you?
Bill, I'll look for it. Go ahead.
Okay, I sent you the PDF file from this article, and in there's this image. Anyway, so if you can think about the Milky Way galaxy, I know all of you kind of can think about it. It has there's a galactic plane. Most of the stars are near that plane. There's a halo with a low density of objects in various other directions, and there's a bulge near the middle. A number of galaxies look kind of like that. So they're talking about what created this halo, which is stars in various places, and the thick disk. So they're saying that it looks like 10 billion years ago that the main structures were created, followed by a lull, during which only lower mass satellite galaxies were accreted. The Milky Way is now acquiring the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy, which is likely sculpting the galaxy's thin disk, the thin part of our current galaxy. The currently accepted cosmological model with cold dark matter and dark energy that structure in the universe forms through hierarchical clustering, starting from subgalactic scales and leading to the buildup of ever larger galaxies. The galaxy mergers that are inherent in this model are predicted to leave long-lived signatures in the distributions of stars in several parameters, particularly in their kinematics, their movement, and their chemical abundances. A merger between a disk galaxy and a smaller satellite galaxy, orbital energy is transformed into internal energy of the merged system. The injection of energy into the thin disk, stellar disk, increases the amplitudes of random stellar motions. This addition of what's essentially heat should thicken the disk. The satellite galaxy's former member stars will mix into the larger galaxy's stellar halo, which is in various directions. This is N5BB and Skynet. The Milky Way contains a distinct thick stellar disk, plausibly created by such merger-inducing heating of a pre-existing thin disk. The timing of the merger can be constrained through the ages of the stars now in the thick disk. Only stars that had been born in the thin disk prior to the merger would be heated into the thick disk. Ages of stars can be estimated by comparing their intrinsic brightness with predictions from the theory of stellar evolution, facilitated by the distances from Gaia. The consensus is that the thick disk consists predominantly of old stars with ages of about 10 billion years. Merger would have then occurred about 10 billion years ago. The large mass of the thick disk and the corresponding energy requirements to heat the thin disk to make it thick sufficiently suggest this merger was with a relatively massive satellite galaxy. And simulations have confirmed this. During a merger, the satellite sinks deeper into the larger galaxy on a time scale that is proportional to their mass ratio. Higher mass satellite galaxies sink faster into the big galaxy. Tidal forces remove ever more of the outer layers. The ultimate fate of the satellite galaxy and where it deposits most of its stars depends on the satellite's initial orbit, mass, and density profile. In the case of the Milky Way, it's an identification of tidal debris from the satellite galaxy would be persuasive evidence for such a merger. But this has proved elusive until now because we didn't have the data. So, the point here, I'm not going to read all the later details, is the Gaia satellite information, which gave us a huge amount of information. It provided the position and the apparent brightness for over 1 billion stars, which is pretty amazing. One result stands out from the first data release: discovery of a population of stars with distinctive motions, which were identified as debris from the massive satellite galaxy that merged with ours. These stars are moving on unexpectedly radially biased orbits, and they dominate the stellar halo, which is the big thing kind of all around, predominantly close to the peak of its chemical abundance distribution. They have estimates for the chemical abundance of these stars, of chemicals in these stars. So they've done a lot of cross-matching with the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, determine the velocities, and they just have a huge amount of data. So this is a really big project that took a lot of work to crunch all this data. So they have over 1 billion stars from the second data release with distances and velocities in the plane of the sky. And there's further evidence of a complexity in the stellar halo. Anyway, the information from all this is that we know a lot more now about how our galaxy, our Milky Way galaxy, was created by assimilating satellite galaxies, and we have some ideas what's going to happen when Sagittarius gets merged into our galaxy here later. So that's everything I have about that topic. Any questions or comments? This is Skynet in 5VB. Go ahead. Okay. I'm going to let Tom go ahead with his item about the SETI project and fast radio bursts. Go ahead, Tom. This is in 5DB in Skynet.
Thank you, Bill. This is KE5ICX. I'll just do this very briefly. They're talking about fast radio bursts in space. We've been talking about these for the last few years and what they are. Seth Shostak, who's part of the SETI Institute, put out an article here just recently. In fact, it was, I think, day before yesterday, talking about it. Is the following. It says, just when you think you've cataloged the beast of the cosmos, the new one howls to us from the celestial savannah. Fast radio bursts are now one of the hottest topics in astronomy. In less than an eye blink, these mysterious objects can release enough energy to power the world for 3 centuries. He says last month, a consortium of 6 astronomers reported the discovery of 8 new bursts that may lead to an answer. The objects that were found with the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment, or CHIME, very classic, their anonym. This unusual-looking radio telescope, about the size of a football field, consists of 4 metal mesh cylinders like skateboard half-pipes that collect and forecast incoming radio waves. CHIME is a sparsely populated mountainous region of British Columbia, about 30 miles north of the U.S. border. Very remote. While CHIME is leading the pack today in discovering radio bursts, the first such burst was found a dozen years ago. West Virginia University astronomer sitting at his desk in Morgantown, Duncan Lorimer, was combing through data obtained from a remote telescope in Parkes, Australia, half a world away, when he noticed this short burp of static, the kind of signal that you produce by firing up a transmitter and then turning it off a few milliseconds later. Dozens more of the FRBs were found thereafter, but they're like the first one-offs that briefly belched radio waves into space and then were gone. That made it impossible to zero in on their location. But in 2012, the Arecibo Radio Telescope in Puerto Rico detected an FRB that eventually changed this frustrating situation. A few years later, after its discovery, this object was observed to hiccup again and again, every few weeks or so. It was like a squeak, then repeats, giving you a chance to raise the hood and pinpoint the source. In the case of I-21102, yeah, you know this one, right? It's lyrically named. Astronomers used large radio telescope arrays, which were good for pinpointing the sources in the sky, to learn that the FRB was a nondescript galaxy 3 billion light years away. This is at that phenomenal distance, 5 trillion times farther than from Pluto, implies that whatever was bursting is more energetic than a passel of puppies. Well, of course it is. Additionally, the fact that all FRBs are short duration means that whatever's causing them is pretty small. Well, think of it this way. If a small group of people are standing close together, all say boo at the same time, and there's a pretty short sound. But if you're dealing with a large mob, the sound from the back takes a while to reach you, so the boo becomes a long wail. So, get this, because FRBs are really only a thousandth of a second or so, any object producing them couldn't be much larger than 200 miles across. The distance radio waves can cover in that same time. This suggests that the source is considerably smaller than an ordinary star. It might be a collapsed stellar corpse, the compact remains of a star that's exhausted its nuclear fuel, or possibly a black hole that's swallowing something or undergoing a collision. Collisions might explain some of the FRBs. They don't make a lot of sense for the repeaters. You can back up a couple of tangling black holes and have them give a repeat performance. And keep in mind, it's entirely possible that the one-hit wonders are actually repeaters whose encores haven't yet been heard. All FRBs might have the hiccups. Some suggest the FRBs may be alien signals, but that really doesn't make any sense. The sources are spread all over the intergalactic space and are arranging cooperative alien behavior when even one-way communication takes many billions of years seems unlikely. And that's to put it gently. Fact is, we simply don't know what causes FRBs, but here's my take. This is from Seth. He says, almost every time astronomers turn up some unexpected new phenomenon in the sky, they're baffled. Quasars and pulsars were deeply puzzling when they were first discovered, so researchers adopt a Sherlock Holmes approach and collect clues, which is to say, they find as many examples of the new phenomenon as they can. These observations become grist for the theoreticians, wonky types, who like nothing better to solve nature's riddles. Once there's an abundance of data, theoreticians can usually cook up a correct explanation pretty quickly. This isn't always the case, of course. We still don't know what dark matter and dark energy are, despite decades of observance. But I'm betting the odds the new repeating FRBs uncovered by CHIME are likely game changers because they're ripe to be pinpointed and studied in detail. The drama of the FRBs is about to enter its second act, and I dare say that 2 years from now, FRBs will be just another critter in the cosmic zoo. Exotic and novel, yes, but at least we'll understand what they are. It's from Shostak. He's the director of the SETI Institute. Search for intelligent life in the universe. Strangely, he says, or not so strangely, this is probably not aliens. This is a natural phenomenon. Back to you, Bill, from KE5I6.
Very good, Tom. That was a good article. Do we have any comments, questions, or check-ins? This is Skynet in 5BB. Go ahead. Okay. I was going to present some information that was going to talk about what the source of dark energy might be. This is not yet worked out theoretically, but there's some possibilities. But there's not enough time on this net, so we'll do it some other time. So you'll be glad that I'll skip over that. Next, let's quickly talk about space exploration news and birthdays. I'm going to zip through this really fast, Tom. So we talked about the Indian lander that didn't make it to the moon. The orbiter is doing fine. And it has a neat radar designed to measure ice in the lunar soil. So the two Indian satellites, the space probes to the moon, the Chandrayaan-1 a couple of years ago and 2 right now, were both designed to find ice on the moon. And the first one did a pretty good job, and the second one's trying to follow up. So, I have another check-in. I see several other ones. So let me see. Do any of the people on Echolink that are typed in come in later here? Do any of you want to come in on voice? If so, please come now. This is TechNet in 5BB. Excuse me. This is Skynet in 5BB. Go ahead, Echolink people, if you'd like to check in. Nothing, I will acknowledge them myself. KB5DAA Catherine, KG5ZLM Hector, and KG5DIM Tyler. We would like to welcome all of you to the net. You're welcome anytime. And then KK6ZUB is still back in there, Elaine, I believe. So, you're all welcome. You're welcome to make comments. And it looks like KB8DAA says, Handy Talkie won't reach the repeater. No problem. If you'd like to sometime, all of you can come in on Echolink Voice if you know how to do that. And by the way, that was KB8DAA. I misspoke earlier. Kilo Bravo 8 Delta Alpha Alpha. Thank you, Catherine. Okay. So, let me move ahead. We'll ask for more check-ins in a few minutes. Space-related birthdays. September the 7th, James Van Allen, known for the Van Allen belts. He was instrumental in magnetospheric research in space. This week in space history, September the 1st, 1979, Pioneer 11 flies by Saturn. Voyager 2 had already gone by, but Pioneer 11 was a much neater spacecraft, and it imaged and nearly collided with one of the small moons of Saturn. And really neat to have all that information such a long time ago. This is 1979. This is a long time ago. September the 3rd, 1976, Viking 2 landed on Mars. That was the biology experiment that returned something, okay, but it didn't really look exactly like life, but it returned some kind of result from the soil. So that was, now people think it's probably inorganic chemical reactions. But they're not sure. It may have been life. So it's not super clear. September the 5th, 1977, Voyager 1 was launched toward Mars. Excuse me, I don't mean Mars. I mean Saturn, and then further out. Voyager 1 went past Jupiter and Saturn and Jupiter and Saturn, and then Titan, and went way on out to the outside the solar system. So Voyager 1 and 2 are the two spacecraft that have reached the edge of the solar system, and Voyager 1 became the first one in 2012 to cross the heliopause and enter the interstellar medium. September the 5th, 2001, the James Webb Space Telescope contract was let to TRW for $824 million. By the way, they're hoping to launch it in 2021 at a total cost of $9.66. Little inflation and delay there, wouldn't you think? 20 years later, it's going to be an amazing telescope. Let's just cross our fingers and hope the launch goes good. September 7th, 2013, Lunar Atmosphere Dust and Environment Explorer was launched. And what else? Time for Chaz. Chaz, it's time for What's Up. Go ahead, in 5BB. Go ahead, Chaz.
Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics. I work at Brookhaven Community College, and we call this segment of Skynet What's Up. Remember that Skynet's not only available on the Dallas repeater, 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone 110.9, but also available to hams across the world via Echolink. There's a bunch of us on Echolink tonight, and most weeks Skynet also has a video component too. You can find those links on the w5fc.org website. So, radio, Echolink, video. I say that Skynet is in 3D, but Tony, NT5TM, says we are in 3D because we're using the dimension of time. By the way, what goes on in the chat window in Echolink really usually has nothing to do with what's on the radio and might not have anything to do with what's going on video. So to get the full 3D, or rather 4D version of Skynet, you must be monitoring all three areas at the same time. September the 5th, the moon was at its first quarter phase, so tonight the moon is a waxing gibbous. Actually, it was just after midnight, I believe, on the 5th when it was first quarter. Tomorrow, on September the 8th, the moon and Saturn will be in conjunction. The moon will be full on September the 13th. Once again, this week, Jupiter, Saturn, and the moon will be the dominant objects in the evening sky. Jupiter is the brightest object in the evening sky, other than the moon. It can be found halfway up in the southwestern sky around 10 p.m., which is right about now, in the constellation of Ophiuchus, which is the snake handler in the 13th constellation of the zodiac. Just to the lower right of Jupiter, you can find the bright star Antares. Antares represents the heart of the Scorpion, and Antares is so big that if it were placed in the center of our solar system instead of the sun, the Earth will be inside Antares. Of course, that would make us toast. Texas toast. I like that joke. Tonight the moon is to the right or west of Saturn, and tomorrow the moon will be to the west or east of Saturn. And I am KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. The next couple of nights, we have a minor meteor shower taking place, the Eta Perseids. The best place to observe them will be far away from the city lights. I recommend a state park. The best time to observe them will be after midnight and before sunrise. I think it was JJ on Echolink a few weeks ago that asked if the Comet Cleanser is the right soap to use during a meteor shower. Thank you, JJ. Moon will be occulting the stars of the Hyades. That's the face of Taurus, the bull, on September 20th from midnight until dawn. Around September 28th, there's another meteor shower, the Sextanids. It's coming from the constellation of the Sextants, but it's a daytime meteor shower. So how do you observe meteors during the day? It is only observable by radio. If you want to observe these daytime meteor using radio, then visit either the American Meteor Society, www.amsmeteors.org, or the International Meteor Organization, www.imo.net, to find out the details of how to do so. And if any of you out there observing these meteors by radio, please report back to us here on Skynet. I'm going to tell you about this event until it occurs because it's a big deal. In a little bit more than 2 months from now, on Monday, November the 11th at 2019, Veterans Day, we will have the next transit of Mercury visible in North Texas. After that November 11th transit, the next transit of Mercury visible here in North Texas won't occur until May 7th, 2049. Wow. The Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas and Brookhaven College are hosting an observing of that November 11th transit of Mercury at Brookhaven College. Also, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas will have telescopes set up at UTD. I'm not sure their location yet. And once again, I am KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Again, don't forget the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas has telescopes set up somewhere in the Metroplex almost every Saturday night. Check their website, texasastro.org, for details. Now, before I end, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on the information, or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I might know the answer to your question. If you have a question or a comment, come now with your call sign. Okay, hearing no questions. So, as the moon wanes during the last half of September, so do these words. Until next week, keep on looking up so you know what is up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA, back to net control. Bill, N5BB, it's back in your hands.
KG5P.
Thank you, Chaz. Go right ahead, Mike.
Okay, thank you. I bumped the dial on my radio here, and then when I do that, it turns off the tone. So then you don't hear me. So I do have a question for Chaz. I hope he hears me. So Chaz, yes, here's the question. Why did Orion take off his belt? Why did Orion take off his belt? Go ahead, Chaz.
Hey, Mike, I'm guessing it's Thanksgiving, and you need to make room for dessert. That's my best guess. Go ahead.
Well, pretty close. I'll give you partial credit on that. Okay, Orion took off his belt because he decided that it was a big waste of space. KG5P.
Bill, it's yours, please.
Oh my, this is in 5BB, it's Skynet. Do we have any other RF check-ins? Please come down. For 5 Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
KG5 VLM, Hector.
Good. We have AA5AH, Robert, on RF. And we now hear Hector on Echolink, KG5ZLM. Thank you both. Do we have any other check-ins for Skynet? This is in 5BB. Okay, next, we're going to go to Mike for Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Corona Borealis. Take it away, Mike, and we don't have too much time, so make it speedy. This is in 5BB.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Well, I'll tell you what, I might split this into two parts, because there's always next week. Okay, Corona Borealis, well, first of all, mention about Miss Carolyn, for those of you that just joined us. Miss Carolyn, our good friend, was call was KC5OZT, and she was very active on many of these DARC nets. And she became a silent key back on the 5th of May, and we do miss her. She had an interesting voice. She was from metropolitan Dallas, but she had a real country-sounding voice, so I always look forward to hearing her do the constellation of the week. So this constellation of the week is Corona Borealis, the Northern Crown. Now this is one of my favorite constellations, not because it's full of a bunch of stuff to look at, but it has one particular star, Alphecca, and we'll talk about that in a minute, that is a very good star that I use to align my Celestron Go-To mount. I'm too lazy to star hop, to learn to star hop, so I use the Go-To mount. It's not an easy constellation to see. At least in the Dallas area, you need dark skies for it. It's number 72 or 73 constellation out of 88 in size, which means there's 72 constellations that are larger. And its neighboring constellations are Boötes to the east, actually to the west, Hercules to the east, and Serpens Caput, which means the serpent's head, to the south. Okay, Corona Borealis belongs to the Ursa Major family of constellations, along with Coma Berenices, which we did a couple of weeks ago, Boötes, Draco, Leo Minor, Ursa Minor, and Ursa Major. Okay, what makes Corona Borealis interesting is it has 4 stars with known planets, but it contains no Messier objects. The brightest star in the constellation is Alphecca, which is the one that I like, that I use to align my Go-To mount with, or sometimes called Gemma or Alpha. There are no meteor showers associated with this constellation. So I think what I'll probably do tonight is just go through the myths and then finish up next week. Corona Borealis is associated with the myth of Princess Ariadne of Crete, the most famous for her part in helping the Greek hero Theseus defeat the Minotaur. The creature with a human body and the head of a bull that lived in the labyrinth, designed by Daedalus. Okay, sounds like one of my wife's nephews. Daedalus, as you may recall, used to have wings that he'd strap onto his arms and go flying around with. And his son Icarus flew too close to the sun, and the wax melted, and he fell and drowned and stuff. Okay. Ariadne married the god Dionysius. The circlet of stars in the constellation Corona Borealis represents the crown made by the god Hephaestus, whoever she is, that she wore on her wedding day. Okay, now the Minotaur was in fact Ariadne's half-brother, according to the legend. As Groucho said, what happened to the other half? After messing around with one of King Minos's bulls. I thought this was a family repeater. The king had the Minotaur locked inside the labyrinth to hide the family secret. I hide all mine in Alabama. Okay, the labyrinth was designed in such a way that no one, not even the Minotaur, could find his way out. When Theseus came to Crete, he was chosen to be one of the people put into the labyrinth for the Minotaur to find and eat. Okay, I always thought that cattle and stuff were vegetarians, but I guess I was wrong. The king had he was locked in the labyrinth, and Ariadne fell in love with Theseus. Following Daedalus' advice, gave him a ball of thread to take into the labyrinth if he promised to take her with him once he escaped. Theseus agreed, and once he killed the Minotaur with his bare hands, followed the trail of the thread and found his way out. Ariadne and Theseus sailed off together shortly thereafter, but they did not sail off into the sunset and live happily ever after, because he soon abandoned her on the island of Naxos. The god Dionysus found the princess weeping, and they were soon married. Ariadne wore a crown made by this Hephaestus, whoever she is, at the wedding. Once the ceremony was over, she tossed it into the sky where the jewels turned into stars, and the crown became the constellation Corona Borealis. What else? The brightest star in the constellation, Gemma, got its name from the Latin word for jewel. The Arabs know the constellation as the Poor People's Bowl, or El Feka, which means broken up. The name El Feka was later given to the constellation's brightest star, Alpha Coronae Borealis. In North America, the Cheyenne called the constellation the Camp Circle because its shape was similar to the way they arranged their camps in a semicircle. That's why it's so easy to locate. In Australia, they know it as Woomera with a boomerang, and the Welsh have a name for it. I won't get into all that. Okay, I'm just going to end up here pretty quick here because we're going to have to shut down. But the main star that I'm interested in is Alphecca, or Alpha Corona Borealis. It's the brightest of 7 stars that make up Ariadne's crown. It's an eclipsing binary star, as most of them are, and it has apparent magnitude that varies between 2.21 and 2.32, and that is why it's very difficult to see down here, although at the Texas Star Party it's very easy to spot. Okay, and there's a few more stars. The only other one of interest is Rho. Rho Corona Borealis is a yellow dwarf star with an apparent magnitude of 5.4. It belongs to this particular class and is considered a solar twin with almost the same mass, luminosity, and a radius of the sun. In 1997, a planet was discovered in the star's orbit. Okay, I think I'll just briefly go to a couple more things before I end up. It does have a couple interesting objects. One is NGC 62131, it takes about a 16-inch or larger telescope to be able to see it. But that's about it. Nothing else. Not much to see. The other one is a Bell 2065, which is down near Corona Borealis, or near Alteca. And I have a picture of it up on Tom's feed here on Facebook. And usually I don't put up these kind of pictures because they're not amateurs. This one here, particular one, is taken by NASA. This 2065, so there's no way that it's going to look like that with an amateur's telescope. But I guess that's about it for Corona Borealis. Like I said, it's useful for me as a calibration star. So with that, I will kick it back to Ned. This is KG5P.
Mike, that was interesting. This is Skynet, inside BB Net Control. Do we have any additional check-ins? Let's see. I see Brent, KF5THB on Echo Lake. Brent, do you want to come in? Brent, do you want to come in on voice? You have a comment. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Mike's information. He mentioned Hephaestus. That is the god of fire, metalworking, and blacksmithing, and his Roman name also known as Vulcan. So I just wanted to add that info. This is KF5TDS. Back to now.
Very well put. Okay, let's move ahead here. Space launches for the week. Looks like we have September the 10th and H2B, HTV-8, launch at 4:33 p.m. Central Daylight Time from Japan. A Japanese H2B rocket launched the 8th H2 transfer vehicle. HTV series is an automated cargo vehicle to deliver equipment and supplies to the ISS. It was delayed from July. Okay, Tom, are you here to read the recent astronomical observatories? Go ahead.
Yeah, I can go ahead and do that. This will probably be the final thing for the evening, I think. Let's see here. This was submitted by Miss Brenda, WB50ZL, and this comes from space.com, and they call it red quasar, 1 quasar, 2 quasar, red quasar, blue quasar. A Seuss-like space color mystery explained, and this is what we got. Most quasars have a bluish tinge, Durham official said in a statement, but there's an astronomical mystery here to consider. Many quasars appear more red than when they are viewed through obscuring clouds of dust and gas. The conventional view of red quasars is that they are actually blue quasars that are angled away from our line of sight, according to the statement. But a new science team led by Dr. Stein Olszewski Kilt argues that there is a much different explanation. Specifically, Durham says that the red quasars are, quote, are likely to be the result of a brief but violent phase in the evolution of galaxies when they're black holes ejecting large amounts of energy into surrounding dust and gas. This energy emission carries away any gas and dust in the vicinity, leaving a blue quasar behind. The team reached this new conclusion by studying 10,000 red and blue quasars in various stages of evolution. Their findings may also shed light on how galaxies form in general, according to the statement. So scientists expect that the massive bursts of energies from the black hole would burn off the gas needed to form stars. Without gas, the galaxies can't grow, so the quasar is effectively ending the life of the galaxy by destroying the very thing that it needs to survive. Sounds to me like a Black Widow approach to it. At any rate, you can find out more by going to space.com. This article is available there, and I highly recommend space.com for lots of stuff, especially for live launches, additional information on what's going on in space, and even science fiction. They do a little bit of that too. Space.com. That's it from me, Bill. KE5I6.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Now we're nearing overtime. The clock is 2 minutes ahead of time. This is N5BB. I want to welcome James, KG5PMN, who just came in on Echolink. And Tom, I guess that means since the black holes or the quasars are accumulating matter, and then they're spitting out gas, and they're turning red, it must mean that they've got a I was going to say a space fart. I don't know. They got a gassy problem there, I guess, when they turn red when they release all the gas. Whatever. Okay, we are getting now to the end of the net because it's over. There's no more time. So we're going to ignore the visible satellite passes unless you have anything, Tom, that's extremely outstanding for the satellite passes. Anything outstanding? Anything outstanding?
Negative. We'll get set up for the next net. Thank you, Bill, for doing a great job. KE5I6.
Thanks much. In the last minute, does anyone have an astronomical question? Please come now.
T5CM, just making sure the station was working in case I would have needed it.
Yeah, Tony, I was going to ask you, actually, do you have any comments you wanted to make that didn't get into our stack of things? Go ahead.
Sure, yeah, actually, I was ready and waiting. Please let me know if you're ever going to do that again. That was actually kind of extremely inconvenient. But thank you. No further comments. NT5TM.
Okay. I see a place for you on the list here. Did I miss something?
It was my turn to do the astronomical This Week in Space History, NT5TM.
Oh. Well, if it was there, I missed. I see This Week in Space History, but I didn't see your name by it, so that's why I just zipped through those. I apologize, Tony, profusely. It was my mistake because your name wasn't listed by it, and I was just going by the list here. Do we have any final thing in our 73 round before we close the net? This is N5BB and Skynet. Heard. I want to thank everybody for participating in the net. This evening we had 29 check-ins. Want to appreciate everybody's participation, and we want to apologize again to Tony if we skipped something that we should have had him do. Skynet will meet again next week at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time on this frequency. If you have any other interest in the nets, you can go to w5fc.org and find out about all of our nets. So 73, we're closing a net now, and Afterglow will start up in, Tom, about 5 minutes maybe? This is N5BB closing Skynet.
Thank thank you, Bill, and thanks for doing the net this evening. You did a great job. This is KE5ICX. We'll get back in 5 minutes. That will be 10:37 local time. Come back and we will discuss the island of Dr. Moreau, the 1996 version. That's the one we'll be talking about. 5 minutes. KE5I6. This is KE5ICX. I'll be your net control station for the Afterglow Movie Net. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin to discuss this fine movie, TM? Alright, so let me describe exactly what is the Afterglow Movie Net. Most of you know, but a few of you out there may not, and that's simply this. What is it? Well, we talk about some science fiction-based movies, sometimes not, but usually science fiction-based. This is a film that's usually available for free on the internet, streaming or otherwise, or an incredibly popular movie that you probably have in your collection. So most of the time it is a streaming film available either with commercials or for free through archive.org or through other means. If you would like to be in on the in crowd, you can go ahead and find this information out by sending your email address to KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, yahoo.com. I'll put you on the list, or go to the Facebook page, which is Afterglow Movie. Those are two words, Afterglow Movie, and so you want to sign up. It's as simple as that. We'll give you a list of movies as they come in and when they are available. So tonight's movie, luck of the draw, is The Island of Dr. Moreau from 1996. Before I go ahead and take check-ins, let me give you a synopsis so that you can think about this. You do not necessarily have to have actually seen the movie. If you've got something to say about commentary involving this film, that's fine. That actually creates a whole new discussion a lot of times, so consider that when you check in. You do not have to have seen the movie. Your comments are always appreciated. Here we go. Island of Dr. Moreau is a 1996 American science fiction horror film, the third major film adaptation of the 1896, 100 years earlier, The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. The film was directed by John Frankenheimer, who was brought in half a week after the shooting started and stars Marlon Brando, Val Kilmer, David Thewlis, Farzullah Balk, and Farzullah Balk. The screenplay is credited to the original director Richard Stanley and Ron Hutchinson. The production was notoriously difficult, marred by issues with the cast, harsh weather, and a skyrocketing budget. Bruce Willis was originally hired to play Edward Prendick, but allegedly dropped out as he started divorce procedures with his wife at the time, Demi Moore. Not to be confused with her twin sister, Semi Moore. Willis was replaced with Val Kilmer, who made his availability limited and later had anger issues with most of the cast after almost being served divorce papers on set. Actor Rob Morrow quit because of script rewrites. Also, Marlon Brando's role as Dr. Moreau was supposed to be expanded, but after his daughter, Cheyenne, committed suicide, he retreated to his private island. Yep, he had a private island, leaving the film production in limbo, not knowing when or even if he would show up. Brando also didn't want to learn his lines, so he requested them through an earpiece. Finally, original director Richard Stanley was fired by New Line Cinema after problems arose during production, with John Frankenheimer being brought in to replace him. The film received mostly negative reviews and was considered a box office bomb. In 2014, a documentary called Lost Soul, The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau was released. It covers Richard Stanley's experiences while he conceived and developed the project, as well as his time as director for the film and the aftermath of his departure and his effect it had on the cast, crew, and overall film. Okay, I'd never read that before. That comes from my consulting group, wikipedia.org, and I was quite surprised because Quite frankly, I didn't think it was all that bad of a film, but here we go. I'll give you the first 2 paragraphs of the plot so you know. You may have read the book. I did, although I don't remember a huge swaths of it, but because I was under pressure to read like 30 books in 20 days. But anyway, here we go. In 2010, United Nations negotiator Edward Douglas survives a plane crash in the Java Sea and is eventually rescued by a passing boat. Aboard, a man called Montgomery, played by Val Kilmer, tends to him. After telling him the boat has no radio, I don't know how, he promises Douglas, the captain, will take him to Timor after dropping him off. However, when they arrive at Montgomery's destination, referred to as Moreau's Island, he instead advises Douglas to stay with him, ostensibly so he can use the radio on the island. Stand by 20 seconds. Sorry about that. The creatures on Island Tom wanted out. Montgomery unloads a shipment of rabbits at a pen, and one runs away while he slaughters another for Douglas's meal. They then head to the main house where Douglas is warned not to wander. There he meets the daughter of Dr. Moreau, called Elisa. That's Farouk's bulk. But Montgomery turns him away from her and leads him to his room. On the way, they discuss how Moreau vanished after becoming obsessed with his animal research. Montgomery locks Douglas in his room, but he manages to escape that night. Yeah, it's a flimsy door that he had to, never mind. And then he comes across a laboratory where he witnesses the birth of a mutant baby belonging to and delivered by the human-animal hybrids. He is noticed, escapes, and runs to Alyssa, who then leads him to the village of the mutants. On the way, they find a partially eaten corpse of a rabbit not far from a leopard hybrid called Lomai, played by Mark Dacascos. At the village, they find a sire of the law. That's Ron Perlman. Yeah, that Ron Perlman. The Beast guy whose law preaches being human in terms of restraint and discipline. Dr. Moreau, played by Marlon, I can't remember scripts. Brando refers to as the father by the mutants appears. He controls villagers by using a remote control that causes pain through the implant under the creature's skin. Moreau forces the village to hand over Douglas, only peacefully take him to the house to discuss the situation. Yada, 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 bad things happen. There's a lot of shooting, and then the submarine sinks. Oh, there is no submarine in this. Okay, the ship sinks. No, there's no ship that sinks. At any rate, you get the idea. So what I will do now is take check-in. So please come now with your call sign, your name, your location if you don't mind, and let me know, did you see this 1996 version of The Island of Dr. Moreau? So here we go, write this down. I'll need your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, did you see the movie? Please come now.
Number Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I apologize, I did not see the movie, so I'll be listening only, but I'll be listening eagerly.
Killer Golf 5, Papa, Mike and Richardson. I did see the movie.
Number 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving. I did not see the movie, so I'll just be listening.
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima Mobile. My name is Brenda, and I did see the movie.
Tango 9er Victor, Michael in Plano, and unfortunately, I saw the movie.
It's Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike, November, James, Fort Worth. I did not see the movie.
All right, let me get caught up here just for a second. Okay. And I think I got everybody in and out. Oh, here we go. I've got NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. No, he didn't see the movie. He's listen only. KG5P, Mike and Richardson. Yep, he saw it. I got you. N5BB, Bill and Irving. Nope, and he's listen only. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, she's mobile. Yeah, she saw the movie. WT9V, Victor. That would be Michael over in Plano. Unfortunately, he did see the movie. KG5P and M, James over in Fort Worth. No, he did not. We may call on you anyway. N5IMS in Carrollton. No, he did not see the movie. That's okay. I'll take additional check-ins. Anyone who saw The Island of Dr. Moreau or not in 1996. That's the movie we're talking about. Come now with your call sign name. Your location, let me know if you saw the movie. Okay, smaller than normal group, but that's okay. And KI60, thank you. Michael, I got you down. No, you did not see the movie, but you can come in anytime you want to discuss the film. Okay, here we go. What we'll do is we will start with the plot. We'll start with the plot, and then we'll go through the list, and then we'll go on to characterization. We'll take additional check-ins during that time as well. And then finally, I think, what is it, special effects and beyond that. Okay, so let's start with the plot. This classic H.G. Wells story. I'm going to start with KG5P. Mike, over in Richardson, your thoughts on the plot. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Well, I thought this is like the third make of this movie. The first one was Charles Laughton, I don't know, back in the 30s, I think, and then Burt Lancaster had a remake, and I've seen that one. That was, I'm thinking in the 70s sometime, early 70s. And then this one. This was based on the book by H.G. Wells, and I would say the screenplay was about 90% accurate to the book. And when they took liberties away from H.G. Wells' original story, it didn't really take anything away from the movie. I didn't think they just kind of upgraded it a little bit because H.G. Wells, he didn't know about DNA and all that, and they were, I guess they'd factored DNA into this one, and some of the animals were a little bit different. This almost, it was like Animal Farm, if you remember that book by Orwell, where the animals kind of take over. As far as the plot goes, it followed the book fairly closely. The special effect, well, we won't talk about that right now. But I enjoyed it. I think somebody said that they watched it unfortunately. I think they said unfortunately, but I didn't think it. This is probably one of the better ones. I think it's probably the best of all the versions that I've seen, even though I've liked the other versions. So, Marlon Brando had a daughter that was reverting back to animals, and I don't think that was in the book, as I recall. And he his assistant was some kind of a sloth that was half human, half sloth in the book. And we don't know what that little guy was that played piano in this one. So I'll kick it back to you, Tom. Hope that's enough to get everybody started. KG5P.
All right, thank you, Mike. And I don't disagree at all. I'll make my comments in a little bit. Let's see, Miss Brenda, WB50ZL. She's mobile. You're going to have to drive and talk at the same time. What did you think of the plot? WB50ZL from KE5I6.
This is WB50ZL Mobile. I thought the plot was pretty true to the book. I read the book about 1 million years ago. And I don't have a problem with the plot. I think the only thing I had a bit of a problem with is they kind of overplayed some stuff, like Marlon Brando being so creepy. You know, the white face and all that, acting weird. I didn't see that kind of a scenario in the book or in the other movie. I read the synopsis of the Lancaster movie, and I think I may have seen it at the time. But I just thought it was just a little bit extreme, and some of the violence and automatic weapons and all that. I think it kind of took away from the story a bit. But it's a very intriguing story. Genetics wasn't such a big thing back then, but it really could be now. Okay, that's all I got for now. WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And echoing people, I know I got some folks that popped in there, but I will take another round of echo link in a minute. Next up is WT9V, Michael over in Plano. Your thoughts on the plot? Go ahead, from KE5I6.
The plot. I really don't know what to say. I mean, not having, I don't remember that I ever read the book, which is kind of a surprise considering all the other stuff I've read. But absent the book and standalone, the plot kind of left me rather confused, just because there was so much weirdness. It's like, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's not me. But on the other hand, I did mention it to my brother, who said he tried reading the book at some point, and he came away confused too. So, I don't know. Points that I thought of that I actually thought to write down. The guy in the live craft wasn't nearly sunburned enough. I mean, give me a few hours and it'd be like a lobster, much less days and days. And then also towards the beginning, I thought, after he arrived on the island, a typical newcomer shows up and screws up everything for everyone movie. And then it got weird. I'll probably think of more stuff later, but I'll shoehorn it in later. WT9V.
Okay, very good. Well, I have a bunch of comments on this one on the plot, but I'll come back to it in just a bit. I've got no for PNM, IMS, no. James, KG5PMN, do you have any comments? I know you didn't see the film. Maybe you read the story or not. Do you have anything here for us? Go from KE5I6.
This is KG5PMN. Don't really have any comments on this movie. I read Stephen King's Christine a while before the movie came out, and was rather disappointed in the movie. Would not follow the book very well, but then I also realized that they probably couldn't do special effects back at that time very well, and followed some of the book. KG5PMN, back to the net.
James, I know I forced that out of you, but actually I do have a comment about what you said, having to do with story and the way it is presented, which I'm going to put this down: story versus teleplay. Let me put it screenplay, because that's really important. There's a comment that I want to make about that in a little bit. Let's see. I got JJ. He's listen only. I've got Michael, KI60ZQ. Michael, you have anything to say? I know you didn't see the film, but do you have anything to say in regards to this idea? Go ahead. All right. I'm transmitting from a rabbit den, says JJ over in Carrollton. I'll go ahead and give some time for anybody on voice on Echolink if you'd like to join us. Let's see. I feel like I forgot. Hang on a second. All right, I am pretty sure I got Jay over in Weatherford. I don't know why. This is really weird. I don't have that written down. Let me start with him. KG5BZW. Jay, you've got comments this evening? I somehow didn't write you down. I don't even know why. That's really weird. Did you see the film and your comments? Go ahead.
This is KG5BZW. You didn't call for Echolink, so I did not sign in. You may have seen that I was in the chat. Actually made a fool of myself earlier before the net, but anyway, I saw the film. I guess I'll give my comments. I don't know who else might want to check in. Now I'm just getting confused. Do you want to go ahead and get anybody else? Because there wasn't specifically an Echolink section. I'll wait and then let you decide how you want to do it. KG5BCW.
Very good. I'm going to go ahead and take open check-ins over on Echolink. If you'd like to join us this evening, I've got Jay, KG5BZW first. Everyone else, please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. I'll give you extra time.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. I did not see the film, so I will be listening only.
All right, I've got KFI PDS, Miss Billy over in Sherman. She did not see the movie, and she's listening only. And that's it. Okay, it's going to be a short list this evening. That's okay. Do I have any additional check-ins at all? We're talking about the Island of Dr. Moreau, the 1977 version with Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer. Yeah, that version, I'd never seen it before myself until last night. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Okay, that's all right. We got a short list this evening. That's fine. I found the movie quite interesting. I was expecting a disaster, and according to the description I gave, this was probably a disaster film more than a horror film. But I thought it was actually well done. I really thought that the plot really resonated. At first, I think the film couldn't decide whether it wanted to be in the 1800s or the 1900s, and it could have been an homage to the fact the story went back 100 years at the time that they did the movie. So that may have had an influence as to the whole look and the sensibility. I thought that the way it was presented, and overall, with the exception of the radio communications, which looked like it was put together by a 7-year-old, I don't think they could have possibly spoken to anybody, anywhere, any place using that. Although they had some nice Collins equipment sitting in the shack out back. The shack is always out back. It doesn't matter where or what. It's not allowed to be inside the house. That's just the way it is. But that's another story. The political commentary and the fact that you're creating another race means that you're, or a species, or both, whatever you want to call it, means that suddenly you become God because you can make those choices. And I think that's kind of the commentary that comes out of this thing in the end. And then, of course, they come up and do the Frankenstein thing and come back and say, no, you're not. And this has been repeated in the Frankenstein movies, as well as the story, as well as in Blade Runner and many other things where the creation meets the creator and they become, and Star Trek The Motion Picture, another one of those, where the creation meets the creator and seems to be in one hell of a disappointment, as Dr. McCoy said in that movie. Is it or isn't it? I don't know. I think that how this actually plays out is really well done. The characters, both the animals and the people in this thing, kind of tell you kind of the whole, demeanor of what's going on. The Val Kilmer character is pretty much just zoned out. He's given up. He's decided that he doesn't even want to be a part of this anymore and checks out. Hey, there's pot over here. This is a good thing. Protagonist character, interestingly, gets kind of psyched up and set up with shock stuff inside of him so that he becomes submissive. The idea of this whole thing comes about, 100 and some odd years earlier, in 1896, having to do with the idea that science is up and coming and can manipulate nature. And the science and nature thing comes against each other, and this is one of the first stories to do so because science has reached a point where it can do things. The DNA thing, I think, is very pertinent and very relevant today. We're doing that with, CRISPR, which is a way of taking and injecting and changing DNA in animals. We have a person in China who has found a way of taking away, I forget what it was, a common human malady from a child that was recently born, and he has been disbarred and shamed because of it. I think we are kind of in the age of Dr. Moreau, not necessarily in the exact terms such as, merging animals and humans together, but with the idea of DNA to be able to create kids who are, can be perfectly disease-free or may have blue eyes, even though the mother and the father don't have blue eyes, may have some other attribute that may be, inserted into the DNA that makes them kind of non-human in a way. I think this is a very pertinent story and very relevant because I think the Frankenstein monster thing may come out of it, which is that people in the end decide not necessarily their children, although they become the Frankenstein's monster. What do they think if they find out that they've been CRISPRized and suddenly turned into something that they wouldn't have been otherwise? This story has also been kind of discussed in many different ways about, superhuman races. What happens to them? I think a Star Trek Space Seed episode with Ricardo Montalban, which interestingly has had 2 sequels since then because of the interest in that of the superhuman person. Where do they fit in the world, and how do they react? Well, there's a bit of a overwhelming confidence in themselves in those instances. That might also be the super athlete today who is able to take and make things work for them, $40 million salaries, and that has a tendency to make you feel pretty good about yourself and your confidence. But that takes into the human aspirations rather than the DNA part of it. And then lastly, for me on this round, the idea of who is the creator, which I brought into the conversation at the beginning. How does that work out? And then what happens to everybody else? And then when you become, as it was suggested at the end of the film, that you are God, call me God, then there's others around you who think they could be God. And then all of a sudden now you've got to get rid of the other gods, which is really a man thing. It has to do with the mankind and who's going to be the dictator. So there were so many wheels in motion on this thing. I found it quite fascinating. And even though the film itself apparently was considered a disaster when during the whole production of the thing, I thought it really actually worked out pretty well. Okay, I'm going to go to the top of the list now. This is KE5ICX. I'm Net Control. Tonight we're talking about The Island of Dr. Moreau from 1996. So unless anybody's got any additional comments or breaks, I'm going to start at the top of the list. That would be KG5P. Mike, what did you think of characterization?
Thank you, Tom. KG5P in the group. Well, again, I didn't really see any really glaring errors in characterization. Yeah, Marlon Brando was a little weird, but he was doing weird movies at the time. He had done Apocalypse Now, and and his movies just kept getting stranger. I think the last straight one he did was The Godfather. But you can see how his career developed over the years, and I think it all worked out for him. He didn't try to play the same role. He, as he aged, his characters aged and changed right along with him. Someone had mentioned Stephen King, and it's very difficult to make a good movie out of a book like Christine, which is just a tremendous book. If you've never read it, you definitely should, because it's an absolutely very witty, well-crafted book. And I don't care how good a screenwriter you have, it's just not going to do justice to the book. Because the book was so good. And that was one of his smaller books. Stephen King's, he often writes 1,100-page books. And to make a movie that would take 11 hours to watch, it'd be like, the Russian version of War and Peace or something like that. So the book can never be, or the movie can never really be as well done as the book if it's a well-done book. I guess maybe I'm digressing a little bit, but Tom brought up a bunch of good points about this whole DNA issue. Now, if you guys have been listening to Skynet, I've been reading some passages out of Michio Kaku's book. Has a big long title, but it's just basically it's like the future of humanity is part of it. But now that's an excellent book, and it starts out. I thought it would be a book about the space program because it starts out with Goddard and Tsiolkovsky and those the pioneers of the space age. But then he gets on into more esoteric, I guess, of his visions of the future, and he gets into this DNA testing or DNA modification in a great amount of detail, and what the implications might be, and how this might possibly be useful in futuristic space travel. And wonderful book, but Tom had mentioned a lot of these questions that Michio Kaku discussed in his book, The Future of Humanity, and that's another book that I'd suggest that I have a copy of it, but it's also available at the public library, but I liked it so well I went out and bought my own copy, because it's just full of all kinds of just wonderful stuff. See, where does this leave us now? We're still talking about characterization. Yeah, the characters were, what you kind of expect with half human. The dog characters were growling, and the cat characters were hissing and meow and that kind of stuff. And the little sloth character, he didn't do much except try to be a nice guy. In the book, they had a half dog, half hog character. He was the guy that was I guess, I don't know if there was human in him or not, but he was a half dog, half pig man, pig dog, and he was the one that was sort of the leader of the revolt. I found it enjoyable. It was not. I didn't find it confusing. Some people thought it was confusing. I mean, it was pretty straightforward. I don't know. I ain't the smartest guy in the world, but I wasn't confused by it. Here's a guy, he lands on this island. He encounters this reclusive doctor that went off on his own, kind of like Dr. Pretorius in the Frankenstein, because everybody laughed at him and kicked him out of his own profession because he was ahead of his time, as is that Chinese doctor that we just don't know quite how to deal with that. We have a lot of ethical questions to resolve before we get into that business. But we had ethical questions when they came out with pocket calculators about all the little smart rich kids who get pocket calculators, and then and the poor dumb kids they'd be stuck with slide rules or something like that. And then the same thing with computers. I'm digressing too much, but Tom really got me onto a topic that I found absolutely fascinating in Michio Kaku's book. Not much more to say about characterization. I thought it was all done well and convincingly as well. Back to net, KG5P.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And this is KE5ICX in Net Control. We're talking about the Island of Dr. Moreau, the movie from 1996. And so think about that. If you remember that film, we'll take additional check-ins at the bottom of the list. So next up, let's see, it would be Miss Brenda. She uses mobile, WB5OZL. Your thoughts on characterization. Brenda, if you're still there, tell us. KE5ICX.
I am still here. This is WB5OZL Mobile. I thought a lot of the characters were really interesting. they were more human than animal, and so they had a lot of personality. It wasn't necessarily a good personality. Some of them were just downright vicious. But you always wonder why a scientist would take this genius mind of his and do something that's just so totally useless. You know, what are you going to do with some half-human, half-animals? Especially if you think you have to put an implant in them to control them. That's a bad sign, because it's easy enough to take the implants out and then you have no control over them. So he must have been afraid of them. And he just kept cranking them out, more and more of them. But, you know, what's the end game? What are you going to do with them? And if it was me, well, maybe not. You just wonder if in real life a person would destroy the subjects once you have done the experimentation on them. Because, you know, they're out of control. What are you going to do with them? And once you've done your experiments, you know, that's it. Okay, I'm going to drive back to net, WB50ZL Mobile.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda, and yeah, I got some comments on you too on that one. Let's see, I've still got James in there. I don't mean to pick on you, but if you have anything you want to say on this one, you are welcome to do so because you're still in the list. And while you didn't see the film, you can make comments. If you've got something to relate to it, another film or something along moral aspects, physical aspects, whatever, characterization, motivation, what would be the motivation and something like that. I don't know. You can do so, KG5PM, KE5I6.
This is KG5PM in. Y'all go ahead at this time. KG5PM in.
James, I don't want to discourage anyone, but this is a tall plate, I have to admit, so I understand completely. I'll go ahead and make I'll make my comments and I'll take additional check-ins. So my thought in all this is that the characters themselves, I guess this kind of focuses true on the plot as well, that the whole idea is that there's rules and law, and the animals have to learn by this. And I remember the story and the poem or the chant that they say, "Are we not human? Are we not human?" which is from the original story, which means that we're above all of these things. And then what sets them free is not the fact that being human, but the fact of being an animal and being free to do what they want to do. Is a fascinating, perplexing thing because I think that's part of the human experience as well. What part of it is, what is man, what is not, what is, what is basal, what is a part of existence, how does one survive, and how does one live, and how does one prosper. All these things are separate and integral, and somehow or another, these are all brought up in the story, and I think that this really is something that's quite interesting because we deal with this all the time. The characters are confronted with this all along the way. The creatures that are brought to a human-like status have to decide. They actually get a decision as soon as they pull that thing out of their necks. They have a full decision as to what to do. They've been released. They've been born again, type of thing. And what happens with that? How do they handle it? How do they react to it? Well, each creature character, person, handles it in different ways, and I thought that this was quite fascinating. So, in one case, you've got one that decides he's going to lead. You get another who decides that I don't want to do anything. You got another character that decides that what happens they're going to have to act upon. It's very religious in a lot of ways, and that may be a reason why I know a lot of folks don't want to communicate on this one. That normally would be here, but I think that that does make a culminating experience and a culminating response to what's going on, because it reaches close to home. The motivation of each character is genuine. I think that in the end, what is it you do if there's what is it? Nature abhors a vacuum, and I think that I don't want to say religion, but just existence abhors a vacuum, especially intelligent beings. When there's nothing, somebody's got to step up and make something out of it. And I think that's exactly what happens here. I think that's one of the fascinating parts about this whole film. And the story itself, of course, the masterful story from H.G. Wells really asks those questions. Where are we at? What are we doing? And if we could change things, and we did change things, would it be good? Would it be bad? How does this all work out? These opens huge questions in this regard. I think this film actually captured that quite well. Yeah, it was heavy on the violence part and all of that, which had to be in order to make a movie, and it barely made a profit. But as the more I think about it, the more I found it quite fascinating. One more comment. I do believe this came out after Apocalypse Now, which was the Marlon Brando film, which was based upon the story of Heart of Darkness, which also provided the same thing where a human is elevated to a king-like or godlike status. So I think it was a natural choice, and he played into it quite well after his Apocalypse Now performance. And as such, it kind of makes sense, and it repeats itself in this film along the way. I think everything that Marlon Brando did playing Moreau actually fit in quite squarely with what happened in Apocalypse Now as far as characterization went. A little more talky, a little more Michael Jackson-ish. If you saw the film, you know what I'm talking about. But overall, I thought it was quite fascinating. And even the Michael Jackson part of it, I thought was quite fascinating. I don't remember when that happened, but I have a suspicion that it was probably about the same time. Okay. Those are my comments on characterization, as vague as they may be. This is KE5ICX. We're talking about The Island of Dr. Moreau from 1996. I'll take additional check-ins before I go to the top of the list when we start talking about, I don't know, special effects, I guess. So anybody would like to join us or have any additional comments, please come down. Where's your call sign?
KG5BZW.
And Jay, I'm sorry, I forgot you. I've got to circle you because you're down on my page after I messed up the first time. KG5BZW, Jay, go ahead.
It's fine. I know how we're all kind of, I don't even know the right word for it, but anyway. Anyway, so I wanted to comment on the whole thing. Hopefully I don't know. I feel a little bit rushed, but um, maybe I can get in. So I don't know. I'm gonna say that I enjoyed the film for what it was. I remember at the time all of the reviews about it being rather negative. So of course, when I finally got to view this, uh, for this session, I didn't really have a particularly high expectations. And you know, I agree with you. There's a lot, a number of y'all that there's, you know, there are some aspects of this film that I didn't really have any trouble with. I thought I'll say I thought there was just a little bit too many characters tried to be squeezed in, or I don't know. There's just certain aspects I thought were just a little bit rushed. I didn't fit. Hard to describe, but I'll just say I don't think I thought that kind of just didn't quite fit in, and there might could have used a little bit more exposition, which is oddly something you might want to avoid in certain cases. But it just I don't know. Because there's just a dramatic flip from the first half of the film to the second that just I don't know. I didn't really feel like they explained why the 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 state of the island was just so peaceful beforehand, and how it just automatically turned violent. I mean, yeah, of course, there could be something simmering in the background that they kind of hinted at, but I thought it was a little bit, you know, I'm not sure if it could have been done better or not. Um, Let me reset. I will say that there's some aspects to this film that kind of reminded me of another um, 90s film, early 90s, Jurassic Park, which is also about, genetically modified or genetically created slash modified slash whatever organisms, and them coming to well, so the arc, how they come to run over the island is obviously a little bit different, but there's just a kind of a same parallel there, which I wonder if I'm going to say this about Jurassic Park. It's not as good as some people think it is, but I have to say that I don't know. Let's just say that the way it kind of transitions in this film, how the inmates take over the castle or the whatever. It just I'm sorry. This might be another one of those things where I thought they could have done a little bit better, but I'm not entirely sure what. One more reset. I know we're gonna probably have one more round. Let me see. I'll go ahead and say my talk on the effects. I thought they were actually quite good for the time. I had nothing. There was Oh, I don't know. There's some aspects to it which made me wonder why they were, what was the actual motivation for creating this movie? Was it really, I don't know. Some of my thoughts, I'm not even sure if I really want to get into, but uh, actually, I'll leave it at that. I thought the makeup was good. So I think I'll just hand it back to control KG5BGW.
Okay, thank you, Jay. And let's see here. I think we are at the bottom of the list. I'm going to be more cautious on this thing because I messed up the first time around. Okay, this is KE5ICX. Do we have additional check-ins or any comments from anybody in regards to, let's see, characterization? Please come now. Okay, I got two. I got WT9V and KG5P in characterization, so go ahead. If you got any additional comments, just a small group this evening, go right ahead. So we'll start with let's start with WT9V. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I know you skipped me on purpose hoping I was asleep or something, but I wasn't. So, actually I really didn't have a whole lot to say. I mean, I thought that Marlin was too weird and Val was too stoned and the rescue guy was too much of a busybody, and maybe they all played their parts well according to the book, but I really couldn't empathize with any of them. The creatures seemed too angry, but then again I don't have enough of a backstory on them, and I do want to thank you, Miss Brenda, because I have made a note to put the implants much deeper inside my creations so that they can't easily dig them out with their clawed fingers. Like, I don't know, wrap it around their hearts or their brain stems or something. I'll come up with something. That goes in my other notes, along with things like all of my minions will have clear face plates, not those smoky ones, so I can see whenever the guy sneaks into the factory, and starts trying to foment the unrest, and all the air ducts will be too small to crawl through. Things like that. It's a very important note. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. WT9V.
Hey, Michael, thank you, and I guess I did miss you. I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind this evening, but it wouldn't be the first time. The last time I found it underneath a sofa cushion. Okay, KG5P, Mike, your comments. Go ahead.
Okay, on characterization, I just was going to add one more thing. Well, maybe I already mentioned this, but I thought the characters are realistic. They seem to be who they were supposed to be. But I had one other comment about plot that I'd forgotten about. I think Brenda had mentioned about the machine guns and the shoot 'em up they had there. I sort of agree with Brenda because it seemed to be just a little bit gratuitous, unless that's formula for any movie. I mean, if you don't have a shoot 'em up, then nobody's going to watch the movie. So that might have been just thrown in there because if they didn't, then nobody'd come to see it. Maybe, I don't know. But if you stop to think about it, first of all, they had tons and tons of these automatic weapons. And how did all these creatures even know about them? I mean, it certainly couldn't be what he taught them. I don't think he took them out of their range and let them practice with them. But they not only knew that the Marlon Brando character had these weapons and where they were and how to get them. They even knew how to use them. So of everything in the movie, that was the only thing that really didn't make sense. So I never did quit. Maybe I missed something somewhere, but I never did quite figure that one out. Back to net KG5P.
Okie. Well, thank you, Mike. And yeah, well, it was a confusing film anyway, but I kind of enjoyed it. No, actually, I did. I liked the movie more than I thought I would. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm starting to fade now too. But let's see. Next up, I got WT9V Michael, and I got KG5P Mike. So let's see here. Oh, WB5OZL. All right, here's what we're going to do next round. Since we got to pick up on the folks that I missed and further comments, I'm going to open it up, special effects and or anything you want to say. I think it's a small group, so this may be the final round. So anything you'd like to say about the film, we'll focus on special effects. If there's a huge discussion, we'll take another round after that. But what do you think about the special effects? I'll start with, well, let me start at the top. KG5P, Mike, special effects. Think about the film.
Well, most of the special effects, this is KG5P, most of the special effects were the characters and how they were made up, and I saw no problem with the makeup. They were all realistic looking. At least they were as realistic as any hog dog or half human, half sloth or anything I've ever seen. They could play the piano. The main thing was the creatures and how they were all made up. I know one movie, The Son of Frankenstein, for example. Original Frankenstein was with the Colin Clive and all that. I think it was Universal Pictures that owned. They owned the Frankenstein and what Frankenstein looked like, and so when they made the remakes or the spin-offs with the name evades me right now, Peter Cushing. Yeah, when they made the spin-off, they had to come up with a completely unrealistic looking monster because they couldn't make him look like Universal's monster that they owned the design, I guess, or something like that. But there was none of that here. Nobody owned any of the creatures, so they were pretty much able to do what they wanted to, and I think it worked out pretty well. I mean, if anything worked at all, it was the makeup of all these myriad of this whole zoo of different creatures. So that was what I had to say about that. KG5P.
All right, thank you, Bill. And Mike, I absolutely agree with you on that one. WB5OZL, Miss Brenda, your thoughts on special effects or anything you want to add? Go ahead. WB5OZL from KE5ICX.
WB5OZL Mobile. I hope you can hear me. I'm starting to hear static, and I'm going down the slope into the hole where I live, so I may be too far from the repeater. Anyway, how is my signal?
You're about 10% noise, but you're fine. Go ahead. You're holding the repeater.
Okay, well, obviously, the story on special effects is the animals, or the creatures, well, whatever they were. Really good makeup job on some of these. I think it may have been a Stan Winston thing that all this came out of his company, probably not him directly, but people that worked for him. And so they were, that's the thing. Other than that, there wasn't much in the way of special effects. The island was beautiful. I'd like to know where that was. Meat Island was kind of the big star here, but the special effects were, the animals were pretty good, I'd say. And I mean, it's interesting how they had so much depth in their personality. I don't know if it was acting or what, but they were so vastly different. I think about Planet of the Apes, they all had the same expression, whereas in this, they were had really expressive faces and voices. So, I thought that was interesting. All right, I'm just about to pull up at the house, so I'm going to sign off here and move into the house and
Okay, Miss Brenda, well, when you pulled up to your house, you've always been in a RF hole for a long time, and you definitely, as you pulled up to your house, it was obvious, and you kind of dropped out a lot. But we got most of it. Thanks this evening. If you're around for the final round, that's cool, too. If you're otherwise, it'd be a 7-3. Let's see. Let me go ahead and make my comments at this point as far as special effects. First off, I thought they did an excellent job. I really did. There was the creatures I thought looked authentic. I could see all of that, including the sloth person who played the piano. Was quite a fascinating character. All the other characters too looked realistic and convincing. This is all makeup back in 1996. May have been some special effects done, but overall I thought it was masterfully done for that time. And I think, what was it, the movie, The Thing was similarly well done. I think I like the idea of film. Yes, I love these big, vast world stuff that's done. But I also like the film where people are acting off of really looking at stuff, real sets, characters that are dressed and make-upped in a way that is convincing. I think that really helps, and I think it creates a action-reaction type of thing. And this film really falls into that, does a really good job of trying to do it authentically, and it looks good on screen. There's really not a lot I would change in it, and as an old guy, I do like that theatrical feeling and look to it, rather than the digital kind of sanitized, pasteurized look about things that we see today, where everything is a little bit too perfect. What do they call that thing? The uncanny valley. That's what I sense a lot of times when I see digital films, everything done digitally to the point of exhaustion, that it doesn't even really matter anymore. In this case, it's more analog. It produces something that I think is more interesting and more realistic, even though it's done with makeup. I think that it's more immediate. And I'm sure the actors, when presented something like this, it does look like that to them. And you get a performance out of it rather than a yellow screen or a green screen and a bunch of dots on people's foreheads. I think that sometimes takes away from the whole sensibility of the thing. So overall, I have to admit, I'd never seen this movie before. Most of the movies, not all, but most of the movies that I assign each week, either they're from suggestions or I go searching for something that's free and available and put them up. And as such, I don't necessarily watch the movies ahead of time. All of my favorites have already been shown long ago, so anything that's put up is something that I'd not seen usually, and this is one of them. So this one probably fell, I don't know if it's really horror. I think it really still falls under science fiction, but overall I thought it was a good film and enjoyed it a lot. All right, this is the open round. Anybody have any comments about anything? Please come with your call sign. Oh, wow, this is a quiet evening this evening. Well, there was plenty of football on all day today, or they kind of disappeared and checked out. Okay, this is what we're doing. I have on the list the next movie is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from 1994. Yeah, we're going down the post-mortem creation type of thing. I am thinking that on September 21st, I have Starship 1984 listed, but I'm thinking we might do an Ad Astra field trip. We'll see how it all goes. But tentatively speaking, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from 1994 for next week at the same time. If you'd like to be a part of the email exchange, you can go ahead and send an email to me at ke5icx@yahoo.com. Say you'd like to join the Afterglow Movie Net group, and I'll put you there. Or if you have Facebook, you can go ahead and go there and find Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow and Movie, and go ahead and say you would like to join us, and you'll have access to all of the movie lists as well as the ranking as far as what's showing up next week and the week after. Try and put 3 weeks in advance whenever possible, and I'll include the links that will take you to the appropriate sites so you can watch the movie. Okay, this is KE5ICX. We're going to close it up, well, 1 minute earlier than normal, but that's okay. I want to say 7-3. Thanks to everybody this evening. Thank you, Mike, for doing Skynet this evening, and thanks to all of you who participated this evening. This is KE5ICX, and I'm saying 7-3. Bye-bye, and remember to buy bonds. This is KE5ICX. So clear.